We really do live in the strangest times where the ANC says everyone must have BEE compliance, and then in the same breath they say, well, actually, we're going to give you a weapon to not be compliant in the first place. Byron, what the hell's going on here?
This is in relation to the BEE Amendment Bill, which we've covered numerous times on the show. So for those of you who aren't familiar, what the bill basically says is that if your business goes above 50 individuals, you have to apply a BEE transformation plan. And that plan has to basically say how you're going to meet certain sectoral targets. Now, underneath the original rules that were gazetted, if you fail to comply with this, you could be fined into oblivion. And Solidarity said, well, can't really class it as a target if there's a fine attached to it. Effectively, you don't really actually have to follow the rules anyway, according to the existing rules. And what we're doing is giving you all the loopholes, and we're making them very clear to you so that you can just ignore the law.
Which is odd, which is very, very odd. So, for example, in this particular case, they say, here are the loopholes, right? Here is why you can't have a target of 0% colored in the Western Cape or whatever the case might be. And basically, it's what they agreed with for Solidarity. There is a transfer of the business. There's insufficient target individuals with the qualifications, insufficient promotion opportunities. There's a lot of reasons why you don't have to abide by these new BEE laws. But the real question is, why is the ANC giving businesses an out in this instance? Because a long time ago, when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, you and I were at law school, Byron. And law school said laws need to be of a general application, i.e. they must be adhered to by everyone in the country. For this one, though, the government is saying, yes, you have to have these targets, but here are a variety of ways why those targets won't matter to you if you can just convince us they don't matter to you. They're not going to do that with the NHI. They're not going to do that with the expropriation bill. They're not going to do that with taxation. But they're doing it for BEE reasons.
Very good question. And so the first reason could be that South Africa has a high degree of unemployment. I mean, obviously, our unemployment rate on the expanded definition is near 45%. Now, obviously, these rules would, in effect, basically force certain individuals out of sectors. It would mean that if a sector is primarily dominated by, say, white individuals, which we do see in finance, mainly because it takes a very long time to qualify in finance. It's very costly. And so obviously the transformation of that sector is slower, purely just because of the educational costs and how much time it takes to do. Also the high failure rate. So that would basically radically transform there and leave it obviously underrepresented, which in effect, I suppose, could collapse the sector in its entirety. But I suppose if you were more cynical, you could say that the Brics conference and the comments made by China may be a more telling reason for it. And that is that China has claimed it would be happy to help fix our energy problems and obviously invest more into South Africa if we dropped our BEE legislation.
Yeah, and it's only BEE in terms of two certain industries, notably transmission and distribution of energy. So China's playing a very interesting game where they're like, listen, we want to take over completely, solve this problem for you because you're retarded and can't do it by yourself. But if we do that, you can't have any partnership with us. You must just leave it to us to do it properly. And it looks like they're holding the ANC to ransom in some way by saying, listen, we can solve load shedding quite easily, but you must let go of one of the core tenets of your ideology, which is BEE. I wonder how the ANC is feeling about that, to have their, so-called global leader partner telling them, mate, BEE is a bit shit, let go, and then we'll help you out. Which is far more than what America has ever done. Have you noticed? Like, China is far more based than America in this regard.
But I suppose you could also look at it a little bit more cynical. I mean, obviously, one of the ANC's big ideological partners is actually Lula. Last time I checked, mate, Lula's a white. And obviously, one of the other countries that the ANC really, really likes is obviously Russia. Last time I checked, mate, Russians are mainly white. So that causes the ANC a little bit of a dilemma, right? I mean, if you're going to get these individuals to come and invest in the country and then you're subjecting them to BEE targets, it's kind of going to make investment from your Brics partners very difficult. I mean, even the Indian kind of representation, as we know, according to some of the BEE legislation, Indians don't really qualify for BEE. Some they do, I mean, as we know. And that's actually part of the problem, is that the rules aren't very, should we say, uniform. They do vary depending on what you read. I mean, it's like It's like the water rules, right? I mean, the water rules didn't come up with the whole colored, white, whatever. They just said black.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the BE rules is that they are not black and white.
But that's correct, Ramon. They're not black and white. The problem with that is obviously it does mean that if you're one of the Brics partners and you're looking to invest here, the BE legislation does cause you a massive headache. And actually hiring a individual or a consultant to basically tell you how to get around this is just like, there's better places to go deal with. I mean, just go to Brazil. I mean, at least they got electricity, right?
Yeah, so this is a weird conundrum. So to me, my view is that the BE law was passed, Cyril signed it. That's what Parliament does. That's what politicians do, right? If there's nothing stopping them, they won't stop it. And now it's come to pass, and they're like, you know what? This law is going to cause a hell of a lot of crap for us. It's the election next year. Let's just give an out for people who want an out. You combine that with China saying, listen, stop BEE and we'll solve your problems and take over ESCOM for you, make you much more popular than you currently are, on the basis that you drop the core tenets of your ideology. So I don't think we can separate those two things. I think there is an understanding that if the ANC is so focused on BEE at all costs and at all times, it's one of the main reasons why it is falling so badly in the polls. Because with BEE comes, well, inadequacy everywhere. And they can't do with much more inadequacy going forward.
Because the problem inevitably comes, Ramon, and that's, at the end of the day, when you need things done, you need it done based on the fact that the person who you're employing to do it knows how to do it. It's all good and fine to say, I tell you what, I'm going to give previously disadvantaged individual an opportunity to fix a power station. But if the guy's got a standard 8 and the only thing he really knows how to do is flip burgers, mate, that's a recipe for disaster, especially when you need power to, survive. So at the end of the day, when you're looking at it, you go, well, we should only really get the right people for the right skill. In other words, meritocracy, right? But unfortunately, transformation and meritocracy don't generally tend to go hand in hand. And that's not because transformation and meritocracy can't be aligned. It's because that's typically the way it's applied in reality. As we know, cadet deployments is applied, and then it's just a fuck up everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, but as we did say on this particular show, if there is an oversupply of whites in the civil sector for the next 10 years, that's a cost we are willing to take, because the upside of meritocratic people in the civil service is a country that functions for everyone, especially those who need it the most.